o'clock. Is Scott coming tonight? You know, Scott
Talk to him. See
Okay.
otherwise.
might be in a traffic.
All right. Call to order this regularly scheduled March meeting for the Huron City Schools Board of Education. Mr. Treasurer?
Mr. Jones. Here. Mrs. Green.
Here.
Mrs. Mast.
Here.
Mr. Slocum. Mr. Ward.
Yes.
Hang on here, I apologize.
Which Carlin again?
Okay, I have you too, so.
Shall we stand for the pledge, please? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Item 3 is an approval of the agenda.
Before you approve, Mr. President, may I just make an amendment? Item 5, executive session, if we could scratch that. That situation has been resolved, tentatively resolved.
Any further discussion? Motion?
I
Go ahead,
move that
John.
we accept the agenda with the changes referenced by Superintendent Muratori.
I'll second.
Treasurer?
Mrs. Green.
Yes.
Mrs. Mast.
Yes.
Mr. Jones. Yeah. Mr. Ward.
Yes. Item 4, approval of the minutes.
So moved?
Second.
Mr. Treasurer?
Mrs. Mast.
Yes.
Mr. Jones.
Yes.
Mr. Ward.
Yes. We've expunged item 5. Item 6, audience and community participation. We ask that you approach the lectern. Limit your comments to 5 minutes. We will dedicate a total of 30 minutes toward this segment of the board. Would anyone like to address the Board of Education? I believe we have a written statement that Dr. McDonald will share.
Good evening. This written statement is by Ms. Maria Fry, 308 Canterbury. Dear school board members, my name is Maria Fry. My husband Zach and I have 3 kids in the school, a high school senior, sophomore, and 6th grader. Due to a work commitment tonight, I wasn't able to attend in person. I respectfully request that my letter be shared and read in the record tonight, either by a board member as new business or during public comment. I'm writing to request that we reinstate recognition for the top academic performers in our schools, put them back on equal footing with their college-bound peers. Starting with last year's graduating class rank and valedictorian and salutatorian were no longer awarded, and GPA was returned to an unweighted scale. This now means that an A in an honors level class receives the same 4.0 GPA as a regular class. I understand why this decision was made and that colleges are moving this direction as well. However, to the kids that truly deserve these type of awards, there's nothing to replace it. I'm here today to highlight the unintended consequences of that decision and request that our high school reinstate some of the recognition for these kids that take the hardest honors AP classes Huron has to offer and perform really well. Right now, the setup of academic honors, including National Honor Society honor roll, even summa cum laude awards, are based on GPA. The person that takes the hardest all honors classes, like AP Physics and Calculus, and has a 4.0 is recognized the same as a person that has a 4.0 but took regular levels or elective classes. I think we'd all agree there's a huge difference here. In addition, losing class ranks put these top performing kids at a disadvantage when competing for scholarships in competitive college entrance programs. Instead of being able to state their class rank like those they are competing with, they have to mark the option for, I don't know my class rank, my school doesn't rank. When it's the smallest difference between candidates that makes the difference, why make our students fight harder to compete? If your model really is committed to excellence, then we need to encourage academic excellence by recognizing when our kids who take the hardest classes they can handle. We need to give them some recognition for taking a more difficult path and excelling. We need to give them an accolade to put on their resume and applications to offset not being able to use class rank. Many respected leaders state that you should reward the behavior you want to see. We're not doing this for these top performers. In an effort to bring a solution or a starting point to the table, I propose creating another level of recognition, similar to first, second team, all SVP awards, just for the kids that take all honors classes and do well. Identify the kids taking all honors and getting high GPA. Reward them for pushing themselves by acknowledging those that qualify each semester, like honor roll. As seniors, acknowledge this elite academic performance at the senior honors night. I'm not asking to rank them individually. I'm proposing we honor all that achieve true academic excellence. Let's bring back the recognition for academic excellence to our schools. Let's make it something kids in the younger grades want to strive for. Please invest the time and gather the stakeholders to design some recognition for these kids. They deserve it. Kind regards, Maria Fry.
Thank you, Dr. McDonald. We appreciate the contribution from Mrs. Fry. Anyone else? Item 7, Superintendent Report.
Okay, thank you, Mr. President. The impact of the COVID pandemic on teaching and learning has been well documented. Data is becoming more and more available, bringing to light challenges that our students have faced. Recently, Governor DeWine initiated a directive that school districts begin to work towards developing a plan that will address the delayed and lost learning that occurred over the past 12 months. Dr. McDonald has been leading that charge for us. So I'd like to give her an opportunity to update you, the board, on how Huron City Schools is looking to address the governor's initiative, the recovery and extended learning plan. So Dr. McDonald.
What I've given you this evening is the Reader's Digest version. So, as Mr. Muratory has stated, Governor DeWine in his February 9th press conference asked school districts to put together these recovery plans. To be honest with you, we kind of all were like, so we've been doing that since last March. And I think at that point, Jenny and I were talking, I was scratching my head. I said, I think we're on like our 7th edition with edits and things happening and whatnot. So I just wanted to reiterate, this right here, all our staff have doubled down since actually March 16th, a year ago today. So I was just looking at my notes and showing Denise, exactly a year ago today, we were packing up food for the first crew of students going out at Shawnee and Woodland, taking the bus over, doing all that. So, it's not only about what we're doing academically, but it's also the other parts of students and families that we're also taking care of too. And I'm really proud of all the efforts of this past year and everything that has gone into it. So what this is going to amount to, because we need to post it for the public by April 1st on our website and also mail it down to Columbus, this is my working copy. These are all my notes and whatnot. So I try to make it as pretty as it could be for you this evening at this point, because we're not done. And I'll be honest with you, I don't know that we'll ever be done, because it deserves to be tweaked as things change, things come about. So that being said, we have been gathering input. We used our delayed start a couple weeks ago work with staff to ask them, well, what's your wish list? What works well that we want to keep out of this pandemic, and what needs to go? So, and that's been a constant conversation since we started the first restart teams back in June. If you recall that last week in May with students, we didn't have teachers assign any new work. We finished up work and we started having conversations back then, so that that first June district plan went to the buildings by mid-June. So we also have been talking to our COVID task force. All of our professional networks have been abuzz. Myself, just with the coordinators for curriculum, you have the superintendents, the teachers, what are you guys doing for food programs, stuff like that. So, and then also to working with the superintendent student cabinet, and they're working on a project to get us more information that we can be looking at. So, like I said, what I've included on the back page, really just the highlights of all the plans that we have going on. And the big thing to keep in mind is that we have our strategic plan that really is the overarching driver of what we do. So these plans need to all align, because we never want to take our eye off the prize. Yes, we just went through a pandemic, but we're going to use that as a catalyst for change, but keep that passion going for all the levels of employees. It has to be aligned. It's not, you can't throw it out, right? It's what we do. So, and then Randy and I also have this lovely thing called the CCIP that we deal with. And that also is another plan that is mandated by the state. So it needs to align with that, because that drives a lot of our funding, which leads us to ESSER 2 and now ESSER 3 coming down the road. All of that under our strategic plan needs to be aligned, so all our arrows are going in the same direction. So Randy and I get to play which account does this better suit for this activity kind of thing with us. So, so that's where we start on the back. So I just put the highlights, as I said, and again, it is a work in progress. So the academics and instruction pillar, looking at how we do our summer learning camp, how can we do that differently? How can we include more students, different types of students? You'll see number 2 there. Fort Gillingham is something that we started with Katie Mishler a year ago. We have 3 teachers participating in that training this year. Next year, we anticipate we'll have all of Shawnee trained. Fort Gillingham is a multi-sensory approach to literacy. And you may recall House Bill 436 is in play, and that has to do with dyslexia. And this framework addresses that mandate. So we were ahead of the ball on that one. And I can't say enough about the Shawnee staff after they had a presentation on the delayed start by Katie Mishler. Every one of them said within a week, count me in. So we're making that work with some professional development. It'll start this summer, but go whole next year. So we're looking at new science materials, and we're also looking at flexible scheduling. Not necessarily hybrid, but what can we learn from that experience that we can offer both our teaching staff and our students with flexibility in how we deliver instruction. The potential for one-to-one technology in our school buildings, assigning the Chromebooks to students, made it really easy not to put things in cards, assign cards, pull cards down the hallway, argue over who's got what. That coupled with our bring your own device has a lot of positive feedback from both students and staff. So continuing on what that looks like. And then simply just professional development for our teachers. And I broke it out in 2 different categories, if you will. A social emotional side, if you will, the well-being of the child. We know we have changing demographics in the district. And so our friends of SST2 over East are actually bringing in Dr. Ruby Payne to Norwalk in late June. And all the administrators are going to participate, and our ISP coaches in that. And her work is centered around poverty and how it impacts education. So looking forward to that. We're also looking at, how can we better support students of diverse backgrounds, So, and then of course, we're going to tackle science, technology, and curriculum alignment. Our teachers have identified gaps. They've been looking at data, and they know, we try to squeeze 5-9 weeks into 4 this year. In some cases it worked, in some cases it didn't work. So how do we make sure the students are exposed to all the power standards. And some things we're just gonna have to let go, which I have to credit our teachers, it's very hard to let go. We thought perhaps we might get a buy on the testing. I'm okay that we didn't. It gives us a new baseline, if you will. It'll let us know, where we still need to grow, and that's okay. It just causes stress because everybody wants to do well. What are we going to be compared against? And we've been saying you're going to be compared against the pandemic. No, we've never done this before, right? So, and then this extended learning space. So we learned some lessons. We have some real estate in the district that typically is used for one reason, maybe two. Don't use this cafeteria. We'd like to use this cafeteria as the extended learning space. So if we can reconfigure that and move classes into there, have programs into there, seminar type things where you can have a larger number of students and parents gather, make it more than just a cafeteria, we're going to attempt to do that. So it's just one example. So that in itself is just the tip of the iceberg for the academic instruction pillar. So communications, again, aligning this back to the strategic plan, expanding use of final forms for parents, using that in preschool, our meetings with the COVID task force and the student cabinet, as I said. And, what did we learn from the online community forums? No offense to anybody here, but it's really easy to sit home and tune in versus going out. And when we watch and we have 250 people viewing, I don't know when we've had 250 people at a community forum. So what can we learn from that? And then also Randy has started his fiscal tiger, which has been an education for all of us, and we appreciate that, Randy. So, and then going down to Randy's pillar, just that 5-year forecast, ESSER budget, and Randy's done a really good job with helping us figure out revised purchasing cycles. So it's hardware and things of the like, buses and what come in and come out, making sure we're keeping the fleet up to date, those kind of conversations. And then last but not least, our operations pillar, working with Denise to continue the mitigation upgrades. So we put in the touchless faucets, bottle fillers and stuff like that. Can we add more? Again, the high school, you'll see that these things, everybody's collaborating with everybody. So I was like, well, which pillar do we put it under? Is it a bigger role for Denise to extend the learning space than it is for academics? They go together. I just can't say enough of how well the team has collaborated. And then the summer food program too. Denise has an opportunity that we're taking a look at with our summer learning camps. How can we use that federal program? So with that is a short version. Denny said I'd have 5 to 8 minutes, and I didn't time myself, but did I say that? No, it's been exciting. Like the last, I'd say probably month, we've really turned the tide from talking about our response to COVID to shifting back to like full-on academic conversation. It just how it's like time is here, and with the teachers coming with solutions. Like, hey, I recognize we got this going on, but I want to try this, and the opportunity to say yes, especially with the ESSER dollars. Spring is here. It's like a new spring. So that's where we're at, and it'll be pretty and ready to go by April 1st and online. So and every district's doing one.
Just more on your plate, huh? I have 2 questions. Do you think that there'll be an increase in the number of students in the summer learning camps because a lot more students did get behind from where they should be that maybe wouldn't be in the summer learning camp? Are you planning on?
Yes and no. So in some regards, we have data that says the students that have attended have actually stayed
Level.
grown where they need to be.
Okay.
We do recognize that we have some challenges with certain groups. So if we can get them here, I'd love to say we see an increase, but it's getting the buy-in that they need to come. So I don't know if I can answer your question until we start sending out that family information.
Okay. And then the second thing, a mother asked me if there was any chance of having summer school. Her daughter's really struggling in math at the high school, and she wanted to take classes this summer.
There's a very, very good high school day credit recovery program.
Okay, I'll tell her. Because I knew the learning camps, is that peak at a certain grade level?
Typically, it's done at the eighth grade.
Oh, eighth grade.
Conversation and looking at credits earned versus credits needed for next year.
Okay.
Yes, it's a high.
Okay, I didn't think that it was anything for the high school, so that's why, didn't we used to have like summer school for kids where we offered?
Not in my tenure, but that is not uncommon. All the credit recovery programs, a lot of schools are trying to do it during the school year,
Uh-huh.
the online platform.
The only thing I can really remember is that we had a lot of high school students back in the day take phys ed at Sandusky High School or at Hobie because they didn't have time to work it into their schedule. So they'd go play outside in the summer. But, I didn't know if maybe there were certain classes that, or even if the teachers want to come back and make extra summer pay to, do some classes for the kids that feel like they are just falling behind. So,
One of
okay,
the challenges, Mrs. Green, we might face just because stressors over the last year, staff are tired.
True.
They're worn out. So that might be something that could present a challenge for us, having enough staff. Now, we will certainly be creative. I know Dr. McDonald talks to other school districts, other potential opportunities to partner, substitute staff, but we're kind of feeling that that could be a challenge, but we know there's a need as well for kids.
Any other questions for Dr. McDonald?
No, I think it's wonderful that this is something that wasn't sprung on you, and our district has been working on this since day one last March, and that's wonderful.
We've all been collectively worried, so.
Remember, was it back in maybe October or so? Mr. Jones and I were talking about, I think you shared some research with me, how schools should look different in the future. So as I see here, again, we potentially look different next year, one-to-one, flexible scheduling, et cetera. So, yeah, it's moving us off of our comfort zone as educators. We are creatures of habit, and hopefully we all get the message from the last year's experience that it's okay to change. It's okay to be different. It's okay to take chances. And you know what? It's okay to fail too. Thank you, Dr. McDonald.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The last item I have, it's not on the agenda, it would be item 7B. I just wanted to give you a brief update. You recall, I've shared with you each week that we have a wonderful opportunity to do some upgrades to our high school gymnasium. We have an anonymous donor who came to us and has had the opportunity to spend time in new buildings and in gymnasiums, and he noticed the light difference between our gymnasium and a new buildings facility. And he and his family offered to us that they would underwrite cost of a LED lighting project for the gymnasium. So we're researching that right now. We're waiting for one more vendor to submit a quote for us. Denise is working with, I believe, one more paint crew to give us a number for that. We right now have ample supply of gym resurfacing or gym floor resurfacing bids, and we think by eyeballing that we've identified an organization to do that. Once we receive the two bids we're waiting for, we'll sit down, we'll share it with you as the board. The anonymous donor will cover so far the LED project. We want to share that information with the family, and then the thought was, if they're making the investment, a family in our district, the district itself can likewise invest in a fresh coat of paint and resurfacing of the floor. So we're moving along with that. Anticipated start time of the project, again, some flexibility, but we would like to start soon after the close of school. We want to keep open just in the event something happens with graduation where we have to move indoors, or also, we want to make sure we finish before fall sports begin. So this is exciting. Fresh coat of paint, new lights, that really makes you feel good. So I wanted to update you on that as well. That's all I have.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Superintendent, for the treasurer's report. Go ahead.
Clear to build on that. It's non-general fund spending. It's coming out of our permanent improvement. Okay, so you'll see these upgrades. Oh, you have money to paint, but you're asking for a levy. It's not coming from our operational side. So
Indeed. Thanks for that clarification.
it's we're very clear on that. Okay, so, I think, if Dr. McDonald, nothing else, I think get a sense that, there's a lot of integration here. This, if nothing else, maybe COVID has brought us closer together on some things in terms of, it's just not business as usual, and that includes on the financial side, which you can't see green because of the sunshine, but we're dealing with that with another project coming up. So let me get on my report real quickly. Donations for the month were $1,775, and they're mostly athletic type donations. It's hit some of the highlights on the financials. Cash reconciliation at the end of February, we were 5.2 million, and the number looks good because we got a tax advance. We're still waiting for the rest of our tax payment, but we've gotten we had $2 million in tax advances. So we were at our low point, back up, and here in a week or so, we'll be at our high point as we use our savings until the fall. That's that cycle we have. And I maybe beating a dead horse here. I just want to remind people, they see that end of year cash balance. Oh, you got $4 million or whatever the case is. That's not our low point of the year, right? And just like our, when do we look at our checkbook? Right after we get paid or after we paid all our bills? And that's kind of where that situation is. Let me hit a couple other things real quick here. Investments, we're making hardly anything on our investments. Let me zoom in on. And can't see that, that's just not. But our revenue is at 68% of where we expected. That's right, we're right on board, and our expenses are 66%. So our expenses are tracking exactly where we expect to be at this time. I'm working on the 5-year forecast. As I think I mentioned last month, it's looking a little bit better, but it's not like a total reversal, right? We got got $180,000 back recovery from the state. That helped, and our expense control has helped. So it's it doesn't change the story. We're just not quite a couple $100,000 better, which is better than the other direction. But it is good news. So that is let me hit. I want to just a quick. I wish we had a shape. Just want to, just because some of the conversation out there, and I've talked about this before. I just want to look this visually for you because property taxes are something that people it's a mystery, and it takes even experienced treasurers I know don't understand it. You can see it over here. That's our property tax, our values. The greenish yellow, that's residential. First of all, I should tell you right away, where's the bulk of our valuation in Huron? It's residential. So when people start talking about economic development, yeah, it helps, but it would take a huge, development to move that needle on that. And so economic development, commercial side is incremental. It's not going to change the picture. I'm going to take all the money we can, but if you think about, we got 380 million in valuation, and over 300 million of it's in residential. That's where our thing. So you notice our property values have gone up, and this is our effective millage rate has dropped. And again, if you've seen any of the levy literature, it's broken record. We just want to re-emphasize. In Ohio, schools could not get any more money than what the levy was voted on originally. So if the levy voted $1 million, 20 years from now, it only can deliver $1 million. Now, there's a little bit, if you have new construction, there might be a little bit more there, but that's the easiest comparison. And the red, by the way, you can't see it very well. That's our emergency levies. I was looking at that today. We have like 14 mills in emergency levies, and we're down to 8.3. So you can see that. Just that gives you the picture that that's what's happening with these. I think when people see the pictures, they kind of get it, but we all see our tax bills go up and go, yeah, but the school's not getting that. Township, if there's any levies for the township and the county, they'll get it, but we don't. So by law, we're not allowed to. So I just want to, again, I want to emphasize that because I know it comes up, it's in conversation. I'm kind of jumping around a little bit, but I've also put at your places. I've been working on some question and answers, common stuff, a little bit longer form, graphs and stuff like this. This is the, we put on the district website, the levy committee is using this information, but again, I just help you stay educated in what's going on. This is in here. Hopefully you're not surprised by anything because I hopefully I've covered this over the last couple of years, but it's all kind of in one place for you. And if there's something that you see that you want expounded upon, please don't hesitate to ask. You know, there's a saying out there that school treasurers are treasurer CFOs. You know, most times CFO means chief financial officer, but I think communicating finances officer is probably the better title. A couple other things, just FYIs. Board of revision stuff is happening. I just want to reaffirm that as a district, we are not going to challenge residential complaints. We've got one, so, but we will challenge commercial ones, and we've got 2 on the books right now that we're challenging. RDAW and the folks who bought Harbor North. Those 2 are challenging, but we've had some conversations already with them that those will probably be negotiated away to our benefit, you know. So just to be aware of that, and the people from RDAW I've talked to, they understand that, and we'll work through that, and we'll get this part settled in down the road, probably later in the summer. Actually, they'll start. We've already approached the city about a tax abatement, but we're not ready to discuss that until we deal with this first. County auditor meeting. This is Mr. Ward attended. I appreciate that. Annually, county auditor has a meeting with the school treasurers and superintendents and board members. I appreciate you coming. I don't know if you want to make any comment about the experience.
It's fantastic. I would highly recommend going. I learned a lot. I learned a lot of just information about how things are figured, different school districts, different. It was very eye-opening, very eye-opening. And it seems to me that our auditor is really personable. Wants to answer questions from community members. I mean, if you have questions about anything, he seems very, very willing to talk to anybody about anything, which was great, really great to be able to meet him and be able to say what he had to say.
Rick is a good one. He's pretty progressive as far as county auditors go. And he does think about us. There's economic development stuff. There's some he can probably be cowboy on. He doesn't. He does think about the school districts.
And memorable was his metric on the numbers of cases. You were just talking about challenging residential, commercial, and he's been tracking that the last several years. And he has made significant. He and his team at the auditor's office have made significant impact in reducing those challenges to the point that agreement is reached. So he's doing a fantastic job. Was very transparent about exactly how that happens.
I would echo that. I'm glad you guys got that impression. Relating to that, we had last week the PERC, the Tax Incentive Review Council, and that he chairs that, and then I serve on it as for Huron Township in the city of Huron. So all the tax abatements every year had to come in front of the TURC. And the question they eventually go, they got this tax abatement and said they'd create 5 jobs. Did they create the 5 jobs? Then we built to continue the tax abatement. And one of the things that Rick did at that meeting is make sure that us as school districts were happy the way he worked with us. And he is. And he's very conscious about the balance between tax abatements and revenue. And he's very much, and he'll give us good advice. And I trust him at this like a Sawmill Conference Center. We've not pushed anything on that. There's no need to poke the bear at this point. Let Cedar Point get on their feet and get that fixed up. Then we'll go talk to them about valuation, for example. And the church last week, a couple other things real quick. Athletic council meetings, Mr. Camella, thank you for inviting me. Appreciate Mr. Ward was there. It's nice to address the coaches. We've got some things we need to tighten up on our, nothing, horrendous, is tightening up on our fiscal management procedures. And it's easier sometimes to deliver the message yourself than report to you in the middle of that, right? So I appreciate it. And Mr. Lamb did a good job of it. I thought as a former coach and stuff, I appreciate the position, and if I was a coach, I liked what I would have heard. So, and the last thing I just want to mention, I've had a couple fiscal tigers coming out. I think they've been fairly well received, and I'll just keep putting them out, and hopefully you find them helpful too. I'm trying to write them for the person who doesn't know anything, and hopefully we're getting there. Trying to improve that. I've had a couple teachers comment that they like it and they get something out of it. So and, just one. That's all I have for right now.
Thank you, Mr. Treasurer. Any other discussion on the treasurer's report? Item 9, Mr. Treasurer.
All right. So pretty much everything I have here is normal business. We have our monthly statements at the end of February as presented. That's item A. Item B are donations. As I said, you can see all athletic related donations for the month of February. We have 2 contracts. I'm asking for your approval. One is a 3-year lease on our postage meter with Claudiant. We did go shop that around, and they provide the best price and slight increase what we're paying today, but it's probably, the big names like Pitney Bowes and stuff like that, they're half of what those guys are. So it's a necessary evil, but we still use the U.S. Postal Service, and that meter is the way to go. The other one is the auditor of state is allowing us to go 5 more years with our current independent auditor, Julian Grew. And so there's a contract in there to extend that for 5 years. That is good news for my staff, because the IPAs are a lot easier to deal with than state auditors. They are in here faster and less expensive. They're probably 50% less than what a state audit costs. And Julian Group is good. They do a lot of workforce there, and I like working with them. It's not a given. They're going to do their job, so that's a good one for us. So we got 5 more years with independent auditor. Our audit costs will probably be going up because of these ESSER dollars. The double-edged sword of these extra federal dollars means we got more to audit. So we'll see some cost increases on that. And the last one, just for your information, BCSN, we're going to stream spring sports again. That's not in front of you, but just like I said, we approved this. I'll give those to you for your information, so you'll always have them. There's those 2 contracts. Dr. McDonald has spent got another grant and spent it. And that's just approved that grant, allow us to spend it. And item E is our tax rates. We did a tax budget in January. I sent it to the county auditor. They do their calculation. They sent it back and said, "Here you go." And that you're accepting those rates. Item F is the one item that I'm embarrassed about having to bring it to you, but we have Bricker and Eckler is, as you know, is our board attorney. Do a lot of work for us. We had a PO in place, but our situation with our one employee that we've been negotiating with, the cost for that were just greater than what we had in the PO. That's why we're bringing it for you, in front of you. Normally, we would have anticipated that better, and just 3 different legal avenues going on, and just caught us faster than we expected. That also emphasizes why we wanted to get that settled. Budget purpose statements for big wrestling class of 2021. That's one of the things we're working to clean up. That next year, I hopefully can just bring a big bunch of them at once to you, and not have these onesie twosies throughout the year. And actually, the class, we're hoping maybe in July to have most of them. The last thing is our amended appropriations. And the biggest change is that grant that you're going to approve, and some just adjustments and allocations and something, nothing material, only that the auditor has to see that our appropriations and revenue match. that's those. So that's items A through H. I would seek your approval.
Thank you. Discussion? Questions for the treasurer?
So moved. Write that in first.
Thank you. Thank you, Don. Thank you, John.
Ready?
Ready, sir.
Mrs. Green,
Yes.
Mr. Jones. Yeah. Mrs. Mass,
Yes.
Mr. Ward.
Yes. Item 10, Mr. Superintendent.
Okay, thank you. Item 10, personnel related. Item 10A, I would ask the board to approve a recommendation to bring Deb Hassenmeyer, bring her back, recalling her from the reduction in force list. And she will serve as the cafeteria in the Shawnee Elementary cafeteria. And this is due to the increased participation in the lunch program, really tied to the 5-day return of students. Need the extra hands. Item 10B, very similar, recommending that the board approve my request to bring Diane Chevalier back. Again, Mrs. Chevalier is on the recall list. Again, it's Shawnee. This is to assist with cafeteria services and increased participation due to the full return. Item 10C, I would ask for you to approve and up to 6 additional hours a week through April 30th at this time for Tricia Rose Kelly. Mrs. Rose Kelly serves as the program mentor for the Huron Virtual Academy, and our numbers are still very high. We're still well over 120 students, I believe, Dr. McDonald, and it's becoming burdensome, and we want to make sure transcripts are correct, students are scheduled in the right classes, and then providing the supports that she does, because she's also a licensed school counselor. So she's doing the social emotional piece across the board, K through 12. So, and she'd been doing an awful lot of that on her own time. So we felt it was fair to give her up to 6 additional hours a week. And a key point here that Mr. Drury reminds me of, and I appreciate this, these are not general funds that we're going to utilize for this. These will be ESSER dollars. So we will not impact the general fund. Item 10D, with mixed emotions, I present to you the retirement for Mrs. Dale Ritter. She's serving as the guidance counselor, school counselor at Woodlands, and Mrs. Gwen Aber, who is a junior high English language arts instructor. Both these fine colleagues are calling it a career at effective June 30th. And I just want to go on record and thank both of those ladies for what a tremendous job of service to the students, children of Huron City Schools, Huron, for so many years. They'll be sorely missed. So, and Mrs. Aber and Mrs. Ritter retiring effective June 30th. And then item 10E, I would ask the board to accept the resignation of girls varsity basketball coach, Mr. Patrick Phillips. That was effective February 23rd. We've actually started moving on this. We've posted that position. Mr. Kamala is working on creating a search committee who will go through the interview process. It'll have coaches, teachers, administrators, part of that search committee. So hopefully we'll have a recommendation for you in the next month or two, because before you know it, they'll start having open gyms. We want to be prepared for that. And then item 10F, I would ask the board to approve the hiring of Mr. Richard Obergefell as a substitute custodian as needed. We're glad to have Mr. Obergefell to serve. He's actually applied for a position when we've had a vacancy. Well liked, well respected by the interview committee. So we thought having him teed up as a substitute and give us a chance to take a look and see maybe a future hire when a vacancy occurs. And then item 10G, I would ask the board to approve the list of athletic supplementals as presented by Athletic Director, Mr. Steve Camella. These are again our contractual positions. And that is all I have under item 10. So I would ask for your approval of items 10A through G as presented.
Questions, discussion? Motion?
So moved.
A second.
Mrs. Green,
Yes.
Mrs. Mass,
Yes.
Mr. Jones.
Yes.
Mr. Ward.
Yes.
Okay,
I'm sorry,
I'm sorry.
Mr. Superintendent, go ahead.
That's.
Nope, I was just gonna say item 11.
Oh, all right, item 11.
Profound, I know.
That's right. This is exciting. I think this is a bigger vision for the district. Again, as we talked about COVID in our rear view mirror, so to speak, this is about visionary leadership. So I appreciate the board allowing us to do this. This is a resolution to partner with the Ohio School Facilities Construction Consortium. Something called the ELP program. And if you recall, we talked about this last month. This is for districts that are at the very least 2 years out, considering any type of renovation, construction, et cetera. It allows us to, at no cost, to utilize the services of the Construction Commission and their resources. And our takeaway from this is we would like to walk away with a comprehensive district-wide facilities master plan. See what we have and what we don't have, right? So I think we owe that to our community, to our faculty and staff, and of course, our students. What we need to do, if the board will approve this resolution, we need to now provide the commission with a 10-year estimate of enrollment of previous and 10 years out, facilities information, square footage, infrastructure makeup, age, internal workings, et cetera. And then we believe sometime in summer, once we finally turn the page for COVID, they will send a crew up and begin site visits, gathering all the data. And at the end, we'll have a comprehensive, what they'll present to the board is, again, a comprehensive district-wide facilities master plan. That will allow you as the board then to begin identifying where you would like to go, what as it pertains to facilities. So exciting. I would ask for you to consider your resolution to move forward with the Construction Commission.
Motion?
I move to approve the resolution.
Yeah, go ahead, Donna.
Second.
Thank you, Donna. Thank you, John. Mr. Treasurer?
Mr. Jones.
Yes.
Mrs. Green.
Yes.
Mrs. Mass,
Yes.
Mr. Ward.
Yes.
Mr. Ward, before you move forward, I just would like to say this initiative has nothing to do with the May 4th levy. The May 4th levy has nothing to do with facilities, with construction, et cetera. No impact whatsoever. This is just for future visionary planning.
Absolutely. And I'll add to that. We're going to find out a lot about ourselves, our physical plant. As we've agreed, at what point does it stop making sense to renovate? We're going to get the answer to that question, I think, very basically. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. That is all that I have.
And be prepared, by the way, once word is out, all the design architects will be beating on our door saying, here, we can help. And they do have good service to help us sell a
Really?
bond issue and stuff.
Yeah.
This will give us an initial step. There's more work before you can even get to.
Of course.
So,
That'll be phase 2 and we'll cross that bridge when we
right,
get
it's
to it.
just funny because they're already starting to come in.
Yeah, of course. Of course. Item 12, board committee reports. Would anyone like to submit a report on the committee they serve or their liaison position?
I'll start with the Hobie. Looks like enrollment is matching or even exceeding last year, which they're always glad about for the 2021-22 school year. And also they started their new esport team and they've played Norwalk and somebody else and they lost both times, but the kids are really excited about, learning more about the sport. And, the other schools have been in existence, their programs for a couple of years. So it just feels like from, what the advisor was telling us about that these are kids who really don't participate in your traditional after-school activities like athletics and student council and that kind of thing. And especially like being a Hobie, where they're all coming from different school districts, they might not know their teammates that well. So it's really been a unique opportunity for them to feel like they've got something that is their interest that they can bond with and just, the same skills I think that we learn in any kind of team that we participate in. And so it's been a real positive experience. I don't know yet how we feel about that at Huron, but I was happy to hear that because I think it really fills a niche. And my nephew just got a $6,000 scholarship at Tiffin for like his participation at Ehovie, like helping set up this esports program. So yeah, it's an up and coming thing. And, these kids, they love their games and we can say, it's sedentary, it's this, it's that, or whatever. But at the same time, I think that they incorporate skills that we never had that will help them down the road because jobs and careers and everything are changing so much that maybe, some of the skills they learn in that will be appropriate or help with their career choices. So.
Don, I believe there is a Huron grad who's making a living playing esports.
Who's that?
I think Dominic Hood is doing that.
He's not here on Friday.
Oh, that's right. He's not. Did he start here? No. Well, in junior, elementary and junior high.
Oh.
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah.
That's what I was correct.
not in the high school.
The family's from Huron,
Yeah.
right? So.
Yeah. So how many,
Sorry, Tim, let's give you credit.
how many kids are participating in the like in the team? How many kids make up a team at Ehovie?
Right now, there's about 10 that are
Okay.
participating.
Okay.
I'm not really sure when they have a competition, how many
Mhm.
can actually, game at the same time. Maybe it's
Mhm.
just 4 or 5 or whatever, but, yeah, there's a big interest in it. And, I first read about it with Amherst in the journal, Lorraine Journal, and it just, Port Clinton's got a team, and it just seems like we had a map that showed all over the state that the school districts that have started the esports, and it's rapidly growing. Yeah.
So then can their classmates watch, like, how a lot of times you can go on YouTube and you can, I don't understand it, but you can go watch somebody play a video game?
Mhm.
Is that what their classmates then can do? Can go in and watch them compete in this game?
I don't know if that's technology is set up yet. I do know that I had actually sent an email to Patty Ryan just to kind of get her input because she's STEM and knows a lot of this stuff, which I don't. But she said at this point in time, we really don't have the right type of equipment, maybe. Tim, maybe
Oh.
you can answer to that. I mean, would we have to have some kind of grant to get certain types of computers that can do that?
Yeah.
Is that what the issue would be? I mean, I know we got Chromebooks and,
You
the
have to
basic.
have gaming computers and gaming mouses
Hardware
and,
and all that.
yeah, I mean, it's a
Yeah.
whole nother.
What would you think would be a startup cost?
That I would not know.
Yeah, maybe we could write a grant to the
Yeah.
Sandusky Erie County Community Foundation or something, not have it come out of our budget, but.
These gaming computers, I've got sons who are both big gamers, and they build their own computers, and
Wow,
I think the one's got a 65-inch TV he drives his game on.
geez.
And there's some firepower,
Mhm,
multiple fans to keep the thing cool
mhm.
and all that, so.
I wasn't even good at Pac-Man. Yeah, Oh, geez, yeah. Their eye-hand coordination is amazing.
But these kids are also learning coding along with
Yes.
this. They're not just playing video games, right? I mean, they're learning coding and how to create a
Yes.
game and how.
And you're always strategizing,
Yeah.
how
Yeah.
you're going to attack or play or whatever. And so, yeah,
There's
there's,
more to it than just
yes, like,
playing a game.
mhm.
Yeah, that's really exciting.
That is exciting.
The Air Force are hiring these people to operate drones and stuff.
Mhm.
Wow.
Of
Yeah,
course.
there's careers in that
Seems like
now.
that'd be a transferable skill.
Mhm.
Thank you, Mrs. Green.
You're welcome.
That was a fun one.
It is.
Anyone else a report to submit?
The Huron Educational Foundation has met. And I believe we'll probably soon be gearing up for the scholarships for our seniors. And we're still in the works on our strategic plan. Amy Roldan is going to be getting out a survey just to get an idea of where people feel it should be heading for a strategic plan. I know she's extremely busy with the levy committee and Rotary and some other things, so I'm sure once the levy commitment is done for her, then she'll be able to focus more on the strategic planning, but I'm looking forward to the scholarships that will be given out
Mhm.
and being able to be part of that. I think that's.
It was very well done last year, by the way. I don't know that I ever expressed that. You could go online and watch the kids
Mhm.
and it was beautifully done.
Mhm.
And with the kids that were awarded all the different scholarships. A lot quicker than than the in-person. But yeah, I'll be very happy if we can go back to that this May and actually,
To do it, right now it's at 25% capacity, so that would be something to do with it.
yeah,
We'll continue to look at that.
okay.
I'm wondering, is because it's 25% capacity, and I know we typically have that senior scholarship evening at BGSU,
Mhm.
would there be any possibility of holding that at the Cedar Point Center? Since it's,
At BGSU,
no, at
Cedar Point Center.
Sports
Instead of-
Course,
As well. Oh,
because it's such a big facility that we could fit so many more people in there. I don't know what their schedule would be like for
Schedule, I
spring
don't know.
sports and things like that, but just a thought, and maybe even if Cedar Point would donate the cost of the space. I would
We
be,
haven't
Yeah.
gotten many donations from Cedar Point with the athletics, because a lot of our sports teams go out there and rent the
Right,
facility. for
right,
practice and stuff.
right.
Definitely look at
Just a
that.
thought, just because it's such a big facility,
Yes.
and we could
absolutely.
space people out so
Would
much
there-
easier.
I know this obviously is totally dependent on Mother Nature, just like graduation, but would there be any chance of having it on the track where the students are spread out on the track, parents up in the stands, and then we're sitting on the stage and giving out? That might be an an option. If we can make it work.
Mhm,
Those are good ideas, yeah.
mhm.
Who knows by May? I mean, everything now, they're just saying families can get together, small groups, no masks, you're vaccinated, everybody's good. 2 months,
Right?
they may just say, yeah, you can have your regular numbers, not 25%.
We're definitely trending in the right direction,
Mhm.
so is the vaccine, but yeah, as much as we can get to look as normal, celebrate those kids for sure. I like the idea of the Cedar Point Center. and
Definitely
that's
looking at
pretty good.
in-person graduation, and we are toying with the idea of prom. We were thinking that the governor was coming out with some directives and some guidance, but we haven't seen that yet, so we can post it on that as well.
That's awesome. Exciting.
Thank you. Anyone else? I've got two. I'll keep them brief. Actually, the first curriculum met with Ms. Charville and Dr. McDonald, and actually most of what was covered in our brief meeting, Dr. McDonald presented. So I'll not rehash that, but I will sing their praises. And, one of the things that occurred to me talking with them and since, they are examples of unsung heroes, and they're working hard. And by unsung heroes, I think in the public's eye, people remember their teachers, they remember their principal from their school days, they might remember the superintendent, but they probably don't remember the special education director, they probably don't remember the curriculum director, but we've got two top professionals at those positions. So I reassure this board and the community in the work that they're doing. Athletics, kind of a big month, I think a turning point, actually. Attended a booster meeting, and as the treasurer noted earlier, we had the athletic council meeting, which is every coach. In addition to cheerleading advisors, Mr. Lamb was there. Of course, Mr. Kamala, treasurer, attended. What's happening simultaneously is really, I'll just use some vernacular, or some slang, picking up their game. And in this way, and sometimes I hesitate to say a thing like that because it implies that it was loose prior. But I'll give you an example. there's some gray area financially. You know, coaches have their own accounts. It's called a biddy account. The booster club exists separate from that. And, you know, I've been attending booster meetings for a long, long time. And there's, you know, this coach is requesting this, that coach is requesting that. And there's always this issue of fairness. A booster club leadership is endeavoring to tighten that up. And they are in the process, and I've seen a draft of a 3-year plan. Very impressive to get this a little bit tighter, a little bit more organized. And so it was reassuring to be a part of that. So that is the athletic report for this meeting. Mr. Treasurer, we have item 13, that's where we are. Item 13, new business.
I'd like to bring up under new business, Randy, I'm not sure if I need to make a motion but I would like to investigate or have some discussion on the topic of the academic achievement that Mrs. Fry sent her letter concerning. I myself received about 5 emails this week. And then that's in addition to several emails I received last year from parents and a couple from some graduated students about the fact that we were no longer recognizing top 10% publicly and valedictorian, salutatorian. So I think it would be good for us as a board to discuss it and then maybe ask for some action, investigation, how we can better serve those top students and give the recognition that needs to be given. And that's well earned.
Mhm.
So I don't know if I need to make a motion that we discuss this or that
Well, you certainly can discuss it without a motion.
okay.
And if there's something specific that you want, and just can lay out, you make a motion and it doesn't get a second, then it's automatically tabled. Well, I think that, or so when you're ready to make a motion, you can, but you don't have to have a motion to discuss the topic.
Okay.
I would like to start with Denny and Tim, because it's been at least 4 years since we put that in place and we grandfathered all the classes at the high school at that time in 6 years, 7. And the reasons why, I just think that needs to be refreshed for the newer members. So I don't know which one of you wants to address that, but I just think that would help, especially for community members that may be watching. And not just a Huron thing, but a national thing that this has been changing.
Mr. Mayor?
I can go.
I'm sorry?
I can go.
Okay, go ahead.
So you asked for the history of moving away from weighted grades. So this is a letter dated to, and I wrote, I believe the history of moving away from weighted grades happened about 6 years ago, and I wrote this in 2020. The district noticed a negative impact on the new rules concerning College Credit Plus. The former principal, Scott Matheny, recommended to the school board, and they affirmed to go with a cum laude system and a non-weighted 4.0 grading system. Here is some of his rationale. The change was made when CCP was introduced. The potential to take less rigorous CCP courses that were weighted created an unfair advantage in relation to students who maintained a highly rigorous course load, i.e. AP curriculum. This had a negative impact on the top 10 rankings. In the first year, we had a student go from the 11th to first in our class. Our philosophy is to have students compete against the curriculum versus compete against each other. We have also observed the potential for a negative impact on the fine arts since they are not weighted. Students would drop fine arts and take a weighted course in effort to compete in placing in the top 10. That was the rationale when the school board voted 6 years ago, going on 7 years ago now, to move away from the weighted grade. Does that need any clarification?
Do you remember, or Smurtory, was there any kind of I don't know, committee formed? I mean, was this just Scott Matheny that said, I don't like this, here's why? Or was there more to it when that decision was made?
I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, it wasn't unilaterally made. I believe at the time Jordan Farr was the school counselor, and I'm assuming there was meetings between Mrs. Farr and Mr. Matheny. I believe, Mr. Lamb, you were not even, yeah, you weren't even, he was not here.
Chris Andring was on the
Yeah.
list that I see, and then, they had some elected teachers on there. and
Yeah,
some
it was
also
the
teachers.
first year I was on the board, and it was it was like, maybe our first board meeting
Yeah,
that I attended, and it was brought before the board. So,
they actually,
I mean, that, it was the first time
No.
it was brought before the board, and unfortunately, I don't believe I had any history on any of this. As a brand new first term board member, I was a little wide-eyed. But yeah, I'm sure there was
they,
a meeting.
they had a committee, about 4 months long in the fall of 2015, there was a committee, course planning guide committee. They had met, again, this is based off of the notes from the former principal. They met as a committee, worked on this, and then they made a recommendation to the faculty and staff. Then the faculty and staff voted on the changes. And then based on the vote, that was the recommendation from the principal in the course planning guide. I think that's how I recall it, Mr. Lamb. Based on, I went back through some old notes just to refresh my memory.
Mhm.
And that was the communication I
Yeah.
received from the former principal.
And it didn't take place immediately because Meredith's class was the last class. She graduated in 2019.
That's correct. They
They were
initiated,
the last class to have top 10% and valedictorian salutatorian.
began with the class of
2020.
17. The freshmen, the incoming freshmen is
right.
how that impacted. And that's typically when you make a change, you start with the incoming freshman and then allows it to
Yeah.
work its way through. But
Yeah.
that's the history that, at least from my perspective, what I recall, it was a committee and then it was presented to the faculty and staff at the high school. They had a vote, and then that information was shared via the course guide, the recommendation in the course guide. It wasn't a standalone recommendation.
Right.
It was a recommendation built into the course guide.
And I guess the reason I just wanted to have a discussion is I think not that we want to foster unhealthy competition between students. We want our students to do the best they can and not have it feel like a competition and have it be cutthroat. But at the same time, I think that healthy competition between students is good. And I think there have been processes put in place since that incident happened under our former principal that really help curtail that situation with CCP. Because I think we had a situation in 2019 where a student had thought they had taken a class at Firelands and then was going to put them into the top 10%, but that class was actually something they could have taken at Huron High School, but they elected not to, and therefore did not get into the top 10%. And that happened to be a year where we had, oh my gosh, at that graduation in 2019, we had 26 students that graduated with a 4.0 or above. And so those students were all recognized. I don't think you did it by name, but they all stood, whoever had gotten above a 4.0, because there were so many. And I think that was that parent that had hoped their student was going to be in the top 10%. I think they appreciated the fact that their student was recognized for their academic achievement, even though they weren't in that top 10%. And I think that's kind of what Marie is trying to ask, and what Dr. Stefano is asking, and what some of the other letters I got, that these kids are working hard. But in their eyes, they feel like they're just like everybody else. A 4.0 is a 4.0 now. And I think they'd like to be recognized for how hard they worked in their AP and CCP classes. And a lot of the students are following the rules and taking their CCP classes at the high school with our high school teachers.
That require, just from my own knowledge, weighting grades? Because we don't weight grades now, correct? Would that require weighting grades? Is that, again, please excuse my ignorance.
I don't think so.
I think one of the things that she points out in her letter is unintended consequences. Like, there will be no perfect system. If you just look across Erie County and compare the 7 districts that are here, we all have a different program.
Mhm.
And each one of them has their pros and each one of them has their cons. I think that one thing that we would all agree on the throne is we want to celebrate academics. And if there's an opportunity to do that better, I'm all ears. But also vetting it out and saying, what is that unintended consequence that we may not be thinking about? As we list kids that come across the stage, graduating with honors diploma, diploma of distinction, graduating summa cum laude with a 4.0. We are buying cords for the kids that are summa cum laude, magna cum laude, and cum laude. So just to get some sort of recognition like these folks are pulling out. Well, with, like the honor boards that we have that are up for all times now, their names on the hallways up here on high for the National Merit or 30+ ACT, National Honor Society, those types of things. So I hear it, and we're looking at it and saying, could we do it better without reverting back to the old system, which had some unintended consequences for electives and CCP courses, creating an unfair advantage. You can go out to Firelands College and get 10 high school credits. Maximum credits you can get at Huron High School is 7. Right, so right there, it's an unfair advantage. That's what we would be looking at.
Yeah. And I, Mr. Lamb, I had no idea that there were cords being purchased for the Magna
This will be the
Summa.
first year
And-
for that.
yeah.
Just hearing all these types of things, like, how can we do better?
Yeah.
That would be
Yeah, I think that's a fantastic idea. I think that gives a little bit of distinction.
Yes.
And beyond that, I guess it might be interesting to sit down with some of these parents and just really have that conversation of, what does this look like to you? What do you want to see? Because we can guess all day long what they might want to see.
Right.
And their letters are saying they want to have the recognition, but what does that look like?
Right.
And I guess I don't know what that looks like in their eyes. What do they want to see or hear?
Well, she kind of referenced even what we do with athletics. First team, all SBC, second team, whatever. I don't know if that analogy would work with academics, but she threw it out there and it was a suggestion that may or may not have support. I think, because my last, obviously, educational experience was master's and bachelor's. If you've gone that far, you're very comfortable and familiar with summa, magna, cum laude. I think there are probably a lot of families here in Huron that never went to college, aren't familiar with that type of ranking. And so it doesn't feel like the old fashioned valedictorian, salutatorian, but it really is very prestigious.
Very prestigious.
Yes. So I think that we just need to somehow get the kids to understand that recognition on their diploma is huge,
Right.
Very, very
There's a lot of
huge.
communities there, like, we used to sit down by class rank for the top 10. It was not top 10% just for
Right.
clarification purposes,
Right.
just the top 10.
Right.
We could talk about summa cum laude going across the stage first, or magnum cum laude, summa cum laude, just to bring recognition to those kiddos. But is there an unintended consequence there? Just those are some of the things that we can vet out as a school, make sure that we're doing what's right.
And then also, because we didn't have a traditional graduation last year, which would have been the first time that we were implementing this. So it just kind of went under the radar. And now here we are looking at the opportunity to have a normal graduation. So that'll be obviously something you and your team will have to work on. But for example, you always had the valedictorian, salutatorian, and the student body president that spoke and the EHOV person. So now, who will those people be? I think, was it last year there were 3 SUMAs? 2.
We just do the student body president and the class president.
Is that all now? Okay. So that helps.
Joanne, would it be to make more work? Would it be worth putting a committee together to talk about different ways to celebrate kids, maybe taking some of the ideas we've heard from some parents and letting the practitioners, the ones that are in the classroom every day, dealing with those consequences, feel it out. Maybe there's something out there that we're not even thinking of. The thing that you mentioned, sitting them all together, just off the cuff here without vetting, does that bring more attention to that group? So just brainstorming.
Yeah. And just to do, and obviously, I think it goes without saying, but to include some of these parents that have taken time to write an email to express their concern, I think it'd be wonderful to include some of them in that conversation. I know that Dr. Stefano, I heard, Sophia's graduating, but she still may have some wonderful ideas. I know Maria Fry, she still has children coming up in the system. And I have to look in my emails to see who else did, but just to include them.
Be true to the process of how we've gotten to this point. It was procedural. Again, engaging other ideas.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll come up with something,
Yeah.
maybe not, but.
Yeah. And I think about,
obviously
I think about what we came up with even in that COVID task force meeting with the parent cafe idea.
Yeah.
From parents just saying, what about this? Could we try this? And I think it could maybe be the same thing. And it might be really beneficial.
And you okay with that?
Report back on some ideas in one of your future superintendent reports.
Do that.
That would be great.
Would it be okay though if I let those guys get through
Oh, gosh, yeah.
graduation?
Of course. I didn't say next month,
Yeah.
but certainly we'll do some due diligence on this.
Yep.
Thank you, Ms. Mass.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Joanne.
New business, anyone else? Next meeting, April 13th.
And just a reminder, that's a week earlier than normal because we'll be in negotiations the following week.
That's right. Thank you for pointing that out, Mr. Treasurer. 6:00 PM. We have a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Regular meeting, Huron City Board of Education is adjourned.
Roll call.
Yes,
Mhm.
thank you. Bush League. I'm learning.
I'm so used to Hobie, it's just like everybody say aye,
Yeah.
Or you could
Do I have a motion to adjourn? Yeah, roll call. We already had the
You
motion.
can do a voice, so it's up to you. We'll roll call.
Yes,
Mrs.
please do.
Mass,
Don't break tradition.
Yes.
Mrs. Green,
Yes.
Mr. Jones. Yeah. Mr. Ward.
Yes. I skipped lunch. I'm hungry. That's why that happened.
I'm.
Thank you, everyone.
That just is not like him not to show up.
Did we not hear
I
from
didn't-
Scott?
It does, me too, because that's not like him.
Yeah, I wonder if something came up, because
Yeah.
he would have told you when you talked to him, like, I can't make it tonight, so hope he didn't get in a ticket.